going into the dark night of the soul is not pleasant. It really sucks. But if you don't go there, you never change.
Hello and welcome to Self Talk. I'm Rachel Astarte. Kathleen Flanagan is a certified aromatherapist, vibrational expert, and sound therapist. She's the founder and CEO of Awakening Spirit Incorporated and the national and international multi-award-winning author of Dancing Souls, Merging Heaven and Earth, Book 1, The Call. Welcome, Kathleen.
Thank you, Rachel. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, it's nice to have you. So to get started, could you help the listeners understand what was your calling to get into this work of aromatherapy and vibrational expert and sound? How did you get there?
I was actually born with this. I've always had this feeling. It started actually when I was 16 years old, when my mother took me to an Edgar Cayce meeting, and that's when my journey actually started. And it was an amazing experience because I thought it was God at the time handing me a rod and a staff. But I later learned, like 40 years later, that it was actually the Archangel Michael saying, you're going to change the world. And imagine, to my surprise and their surprise, when I said, you have it wrong. You got the wrong person here. This is not that girl. Because that was a huge responsibility at 16, and I couldn't see it from where I was as a very lost soul. I was very lost, and I was very suicidal at that time, and I didn't want to live. I didn't want to be here. But that, for some reason, that just did something. It stirred something inside. So I started this journey of going into this. And now I was always a healer. I could always hear spirit guides. I thought everyone could do it. Later learned that wasn't possible. And when I went into I didn't go into astrology, but I had a teacher who was an astrologer. And she said people would give their left arm to have 1/10 of what you have. And I said, they can have it, because I thought it was a curse because it was so much. And I didn't fully understand. And in that time, this awakeness that we are experiencing now wasn't there.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I was really forging in a whole new territory. So finding people to help understand what was going on wasn't really out there. And I've always heard the philosophy of when the student's ready, the teacher will come. Well, the teacher never came for me.
No.
Because everybody kept saying, you're the teacher. And I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So I proceeded with my life. I went into learning about Eastern philosophy and comparing Eastern, Western, and that kind of thing. And then I was told probably 10 years before I got into aromatherapy that I was going to get into aromatherapy. And I had no idea what that meant. And I went out to look for it, and there was nothing out there. And we didn't have internet back then. And so I didn't really understand what that meant. And it was almost to the day that I got into aromatherapy when it happened. And I was a migraine sufferer at that point due to medical complications of an illness that I had from sinus issues from being in an area that was highly polluted. And so when I got into it, a friend of mine said, well, you can go, have you tried lavender? And I said, no, I don't know what that means. Yeah, sure, whatever. And I tried it, and I went home and I vacuumed my house, and I'm like, wait a minute, I should have been in a full-fledged migraine. I was so stunned.
Wow.
I know how migraines work. And when you're in a migraine, essential oils don't work. But if you do it prior to, like when you sense it, it goes away. And how many times have I tested that out? And I was it. I jumped full-fledged, found, people who could teach aromatherapy, got into it, and started a business within a month. Yeah. I was way out in the forefront of this. I mean, I actually probably brought this in more than I've done anything else, because it was a new way of thinking. It was something new. The world didn't know anything. I go out and do shows and people say, oh, they had a thing on St. John's Wort on TV last night, and they buy the products because there was a little bit of education coming in.
Right.
And so that was how I got into that. And then it just progressed with sound therapy, that it came in, and I just fell in love with the tuning forks and the bowls. And then in 2008, when the book was started, so to speak, I had gone out to Chicago, and a friend of mine said, I've got these people, they need some work, blah, blah, blah. Can you come out? And I did. And I spent 10 solid days doing nothing but working on people, one after another, after another, after another.
God.
And I had never held energy in my life like I did then. I normally can see, and I'm in the experience with the client on the table. None of that was there.
Wow.
People were freezing in the room. I am so hot. And I'm just pulling. And I mean, I dealt with people that were cops that had everything happen to them physically, with stabbings and shootings and dealing with those things. I had sexual abuse people on my table. I had cancer people on my table. I was not lightweight at all during this process. It was intense.
Wow.
And I didn't realize to the extent of what was happening yet, other than the Archangel Ariel was in working with me. And that was my real first introduction with her. And a friend who was on the table coming up to me and he says, well, how was it for you? I said, what are you talking about? Well, when you had this done to you. And I said, nobody had this done to me. I did this. I'm the one bringing this forward because, because I'm like, what do I know? And so when I came back to Colorado, I went on the table because I knew that they would do exactly what I did. So I did all the anointing with the essential oils, all the things I did, turned on the music, and then I could feel them coming in doing the work. And I'm like, whoa, this is amazing.
Wow.
And I was guided that all these things were going to happen. And Ariel told me what was going to be coming in, and it was all part of this book. And what I thought the book was and where the book ended up is two different things. And as I started doing these podcasts recently, I'm finding that this book is even more in a different place than I thought. And I'm talking about things that I really didn't expect that I would be really pulling forth, which is going through the dark night of the soul. And a lot of the people are going through that because we are being inundated with light. So all this craziness is this light is hitting these dark recesses inside of our countries, inside of the people, our governments and everything. And if we don't go in and face that and transmute that into who we really are, which are divine beings, that's why we have the chaos. That's why the killings and shootings and everything that's out of control right now is because we are so disassociated from ourselves. We forgot who we are. And going into the dark night of the soul is not pleasant. It really sucks. But if you don't go there, you never change and you don't bring who the true essence of you are out. And that's the one thing that I found. And this book really talks about what that journey is, because as the character develops, she's like a lost, scared little girl. And by the end of book 3, you can see her transformation, that she has really blossomed and developed into this amazing woman ready to take on the world and save the world to the best of her ability at that point in time. But she went through hell to get there, as far as looking at her own personal demons, how she thinks about things, how all of the mistrust that she had with people, all the head trash that goes on with all of us. And, and it was just really looking at that and facing it and then determining what is it that, what did I want? And I wanted to be a better person. I didn't want my reactions to rule my life. I didn't want subconscious thoughts to rule my life, because we operate based on our unconscious thoughts of what happened to us as children.
Right.
It is so not, I'm not being reactive. You are being reactive. And I saw how much I am, and I'm much better, still have my moments, but usually it's days before I get to that instead of like seconds. So I really learned to understand who I was. And I realized at that point that every person coming into my life, regardless of the role they're playing for me, good, bad, right, or wrong, doesn't matter. It's a judgment. They were they were showing me things. And
Yeah.
I realized we are never alone, regardless of how alone you feel. You are never, ever, ever, ever alone.
Mm.
And I learned things in ways that I never saw. And I realized that nobody could bring forth what I'm bringing forth. So I started to see my own personal value.
Yeah.
I also realized how much I had been lied to in my life. And people told me all these things that were true about me. But if I didn't go through all this darkness and look at things, because I didn't just experience it, I was like, where did this come from? Because I didn't want to re-experience it.
Sure.
And it was amazing. Some of these things actually came from my childhood that I didn't even remember. But when I said, where did it come through? And the answer came in, it was like, whoa, I was a child. There was no way I should have known this. You know, it's like we think we should know better.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes we don't know better.
No.
We don't. And I'm thinking, and people say, well, you should have known better. You're an adult. No, how would I know this? I have no life experience to relate to this.
Right.
And
Right.
so something happened is I was being told, well, you should have known better. And I'm like, well, first of all, you're not believing what I'm saying. And I told you the truth and you found out it's the truth. So how would I know better? Because you're the one who's actually experiencing, you don't know better.
Right.
Right. And started understanding more about projection and how people dump their crap on you.
Yes. Yep.
And learning how to establish boundaries. And just because I stand up for myself doesn't mean I'm a bitch. Like a lot of people want to say that about women, especially.
Right.
No, we're not. We're not bitches if we're taking a stand. It's maybe how you present or whatever. But, really starting to change those old paradigms about how people view women.
Yeah.
And how women view women.
Right.
And the competition that women have towards each other sometimes is like, whoa, hello.
Yeah.
And we need to come back because women are designed to work together with each other. And I'm not understanding yet fully where this fierce competition with women came in, but but I realized I didn't trust women. I didn't really like women because they weren't nice people.
Yeah. Well, I think
I was one of those.
It speaks to what, I mean, there's so much I want to touch on that you said, but to touch on that, what is this competition among women? And yeah, we could look at biology, but that doesn't cover it. I think it speaks a lot to what you said too, which is projection. Yep. When I'm looking at my shadow, when I'm looking at another woman who has something or represents something that I have disowned in myself, she becomes a threat. Rather than bringing that thing of mine out into the light and accepting it with compassion. Once I do that, then she's not a threat anymore. She's just a human being doing her dance on the earth,
And that really is what comes down to is taking that personal responsibility and looking further than the surface.
Right.
Because we're so used to looking at the surface because we think we're just a physical being, but we are way more than just a physical being. And I think because there were people that were doing things that I didn't understand, and I kept getting the message, they're preparing you, they're preparing you, they're preparing you, they're helping you to see something. And it was like, okay, I'm not sure what that means yet, but I'm going to listen to it and I'm going to just step back.
Yeah.
And when I started stepping back, it was amazing because I had a friend at the time who kept saying, get off the stage. Just get off the stage. And I'm like, well, what the hell do you mean by get off the stage? Because in order to manifest, you have to be emotionally involved in all this. But he said, but you don't have to do the way you're doing it. Just get off the stage and become the observer of your life.
Yes.
It took a long time to really comprehend that. And I still have to get off the stage sometimes because every now and then I want to get on the stage. Don't like being on the stage anymore. But when I step back and would observe instead of getting emotionally involved, because we all tie in right away. And with the way the world is today, it's really easy to tie in. And it's taken a lot for me to just step back and just watch what's going on in the world and then take back my power and say, this doesn't have to be my world.
Right.
I want my world to be, because just because of what's going on outside of me doesn't mean that's my world on the inside or what I'm attempting to create. And so my visualization is like, well, I see the world like this. I see my life like this. And I've focus in on that. And as I focus in and dial in on what do I want, and I don't care, and I don't associate with people that tell me that I'm crazy or you can't have it. It's like, if you're saying that, you need to get those people out of your life, because that's a crab in a bucket and they don't have your best interest at heart.
Right, right.
And so that's why I started taking more control, because we all have control of our world. And if we all start taking control and responsibility for ourselves, what's going on out in that world will eventually emanate what we're seeing in our mind.
Right, right. And what would you say to people who think, I can't do that? I don't understand. I mean, I've been told my whole life that I'm not good enough. And I actually, now that I'm a grown up, I see it's true. I lose my jobs. I can't keep relationships. My friends are all crap, Kathleen, how can you convince me that I'm worth it to even try to understand myself on a deeper level?
I would say the first thing to do, the first thing is you're recreating those same situations over and over and over. So you're revalidating what you think you are.
Right.
Because I was told I was a worthless person on this planet and I didn't have a right to be here. I've been told that my whole life.
Wow.
And now I don't care, because as these people are dying, it's like, yeah, you're dead and I'm still here, and not in a vicious way, but it's almost like, how dare you say that to anybody, that you don't deserve to be here? And I had a lot of people come into my life who actually said, I wish you would have committed suicide. And you're just floored when people say stuff like that to you, because it's like, am I that much of a threat to you?
Wow.
In my 20s, I had people saying this, and I'm like, thank God I got away from you. But what I had to do is I had to find that validation within myself. And the best way that I could do at that point was, first of all, don't entertain the thoughts. Cut people like that out of your life, because that's going to be the biggest thing. And I started meditating back then. And I didn't realize what was all happening yet, but there was a peace and a tranquility that was starting to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was probably the beginning of when I started to really go further into my spiritual work and looking further into who I am, was because the visions that I had was, I may not be somebody significant on planet Earth, but I am somebody really significant in these other realms. I mean, I know who I am, and I know where I came from. And I still had to sit there and go, really? Really?
Yeah.
Really? And when my mother passed away, oh my God, I saw the full person of who I was. And I was so amazed that it's like, wow. And this woman really tried to destroy me and she couldn't. And it was like really having to take that on and embrace it. Mm-hmm. Do I brag about that stuff? No, because it's personal.
Sure.
It's just that I know this. So I don't give people permission to treat me like crap anymore.
Good.
And I don't give people the right to just sit there and, well, you're a bitch. And it's like, no, actually, I'm not. I can be, but I'm not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I started to realize that, no, the only way if I want something to change is that I have to put those boundaries up, and I'm the one that has to stop. I have to stop it. I have to stop the head. Mm-hmm. And if you want to stop it, you got to look at, well, where did this come from? And why do you think this? Mm-hmm. And that's part of that going into the dark night of the soul sometimes, where you're going in and you're looking at things. Mm-hmm. Because how many times have I gone through stuff and, we get these gentle reminders and pushes from the universe. And then if we choose not to listen, then the proverbial 2x4 knocks us on the side of our head.
That's right.
How did I get here?
That's right. Yeah.
And then you sit, and what do? At that moment, you're reflecting, because you got there because you chose to be there. But you don't want to think you did, but you did, because there's signs all along the way.
Right.
And if you're not flattened when that 2x4 hits you across the head, and you're not reflecting, then there's something that's not fully right with you, because most people I know want to know why they did that, so they never go through that, because it's painful.
Yeah.
When you're flattened like that.
Well, yeah. But I think there's also a sense of being stuck in the pattern, and it takes that dark night of the soul really is also the strength it takes to change the narrative. And that's not easy.
No.
Yeah. And you mentioned meditation being helpful for you. And I wonder if you wouldn't mind guiding us in a little bit of a meditation that allows us to generate some of that internal light, if you don't mind.
Not a problem.
Okay.
Okay, so go ahead and close your eyes.
Hey. Where do we put our hands and feet?
Yeah. Have your feet planted on the floor, and then just be comfortable, either sitting or lying down, whatever's the most comfortable for you. And go ahead and close your eyes. Take in a deep breath through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Again, inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. One more time, inhale and exhale. I want you to place your attention on your solar plexus. This is the area near the pit of your stomach, and I want you to see your light. This is where your light resides. And with your intention, I want you to expand your light until your whole body is filled with your light. Expand it out into the room that you're sitting in. Take it out into your state or province. Take it out to your country. I want you to step back and see your light. This is you. This is what you created. Now rejoin your light and expand it as far as you can imagine. I want you to leave your light expanded and come back to the planet, your country or continent, your state, your home, the room that you're in. And when you're ready, I want you to take in a deep breath and open your eyes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And what I found with that meditation is that when you've expanded your light, you can always set out a goal or an intention, and it's going out to the universe, and it'll stay there until it comes in.
Mm-hmm. I can still feel that. Yeah. Around. And, something that struck me, since you and I are both in the United States, this country needs a lot of light right now, a lot of that healing.
Every night I have prayed since the election. I have been praying for Spirit to help us and for the people to wake up and to remember, open their heart and remember who they are, because that's the only way the change is going to happen, is that we wake up and remember who we are and do something different.
Yeah.
Because we, the people, are the ones that hold the power. And it doesn't matter if it's just the United States, it's everywhere where there's stuff going on. We, the people, are the ones in control. We just think we're powerless, and we're not. Mm-hmm. There's always more of us than them. That's how I always look at it.
Power in numbers.
There is power in numbers, and we forget that because we're so tied into our mobile devices, being at home. Right now, we're still in isolation to a certain point in the United States. I know it's pretty well lifted, but it's not. There's still a lot of that still happening. People are still in masks. They're still, did you get your test and all that stuff? But to me, there's a very strong spiritual thing of what happened with this COVID. And I had to get behind the spiritual side of this because it is about the people coming back and what happened with this. Besides the planet healing and our waters healing and the earth healing and clearer skies, all that was amazing to realize and learn. But the main thing that that I understood was when I heard the word 2020, and I'm like, oh my God, 2020 vision. We were being corrected.
Mm-hmm.
We're having to recorrect our eyes, our vision.
Mm-hmm.
And that vision went internalized because we were forced to be at home.
Yeah.
And what were some of the things that positive that came out of it? Families started uniting again. They started talking to each other. They started having meals together.
Yeah.
I mean, the things that bring people together. We started valuing people better and more than just, oh, I'm on my phone, leave me alone. Or I have 10,000 Facebook friends. Who cares? Are they there in the hospital when you're sick? No.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it started to like help people to remember the true essence of us and that we are a community and we are social beings.
Yeah.
And isolation is not it. And they win, in my opinion, through isolation.
Mm-hmm.
When you're together, because when I got started doing the healing work and became an esthetician, I started realizing I wasn't alone. I'm not the only one that thinks these things.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it was like that did wonders to realize that just opening your mouth or somebody feeling safe enough to tell you their deepest, darkest secret, and then you're not judging them and you're just trying to help them get through it. It's like they transformed on my table.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh my God, I'm really good at this.
Yeah.
But it was like, but I'm healing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm healing.
Right. It is a give and take, because what does any human being need? They need to feel understood. They need to feel heard. They need to feel seen, and they need to feel loved in many definitions of the term love or word love. But that's what we need in order to feel, well, like we have a place.
Right.
So how can our listeners find you?
Well, I have a website. It's KathleenMFlanagan.com.
Okay.
And I do have I have other services. I have a book there. And if they want to, they can go to the services page. And I actually have a free 3-minute sound chakra balancing meditation. They don't even have to give me their email address. It's there for them to listen to. And it's an amazing thing. It's only 3 minutes. It's a perfect way to start your day. You get rebalanced, re-energized, and music and tones just do an amazing thing for your body. And it creates healing. So you can put an intention out there, and that sound's going to drive it where it needs to be. So it's my gift to the listeners, because I think people don't understand sound enough. And I think this is a perfect way for them to just begin to understand a different type of modality. And it's non-invasive in any way, shape, or form.
No. And, we are all vibrating energy anyway. So it's really just connecting with different vibrations. And I've experienced that myself. It's extremely powerful. So what a lovely gift to offer people. Kathleen, thank you so much for being on Self Talk. And I'm going to put all your links in the notes, in the show notes, so people can find you and find your book and find you on Instagram and Facebook and all those things.
Okay.
But I really appreciate you spending time talking with me today.
Oh, I appreciate you too. Thank you so much, Rachel, for what you're doing.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks.
Right.